games. What is up, everyone, and welcome to my annual video where I talk about the games I played this year that I really enjoyed, rank them all on a list, and give them their own little time in the spotlight, because I like showcasing really good games. I like showing them off, being like, hey, these were great games, you should play them. And yes, you should. Before I get into this list of games, let me just address some of the games that won't be on this list, though I really did want to play them. Games such as Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Cyberpunk 2077, Hades, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and several others that looked like really great games that I just didn't have the opportunity to play this year. I wish they would have been on this list, I really do, because they looked like fun games I just really wanted to give a chance, but unfortunately they didn't make the cut because I didn't play them at all in the year of 2020. And also, this is not an entirely spoiler-free video. I will do my best to try to dance around spoilers, but if I feel like I need to talk about spoilers, I'm going to talk about spoilers. In fact, actually, I know for one of these games I'm going to talk about, I will be talking directly about some spoilerific shit. So, if spoilers aren't your thing, if you don't want to be spoiled, I'll leave timestamps for all the different places, number 7, number 6, because obviously I don't want the timestamps to spoil everything, then what's the point of watching the video? But anyway, with all that out of the way, let's get into the list, shall we? Coming in at number 6 is Animal Crossing New Horizons. Before this year, I had never played a single Animal Crossing game in my life. And after this year, I will probably never play another Animal Crossing game. Not because I hated the game, but because when this game was initially released, I had no interest in it. I had seen all the hype building up for it, and then it came out, and I saw people playing it, and they were all excited about it, but I still really didn't have, any interest in it. Nothing really, popped out and grabbed my attention to where I was like, yeah, you know what, I really want to give this game a try. Until one day, I get a message from one of my friends who said, hey, I bought this game, it's really fun, you should definitely check it out too. If you got it, then we could we could help each other's islands out, it'd be cool, we could do some homie shit. So I said, fuck it. I like doing homie shit with the homies. I mean, who else am I gonna do homie shit with, quite honestly? So I'm like, alright, I'll bite the bullet and I'll get the game. And I will admit, the first month I played this game, a lot of fun. It is really fun. The beginning of the game, pretty much most of the game leading up to right to the end is a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it, for the most part. But after that first month and a half, I got to a point in the game. There is a point in the game where you have to get your island to a 5-star level, which takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time and effort that just didn't feel worthwhile. A lot of the other goals in the game, you could meet fairly quickly. You could get to them in not as much time. Like, at the longest, like maybe about a week, maybe even 2 weeks. Like that wouldn't be too bad. But this goal would just take so much time to get to that it just wasn't fun anymore. Because a lot of the tasks you do in this game are very repetitive. It's a lot of the same shit. But when you have different goals that you're working towards, it's easier to do. This week I'm working towards this goal. This week I'm working towards this goal. But when day after day, week after week, it's just, you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, working towards the same goal, and it's never changing, and you really feel like you're not getting anywhere. It gets very, very boring. I played this game for 2 months, and then I haven't touched it in the last 6, alright? I don't think it's a bad game. I just think I was definitely not the target audience for this game. I definitely am not the right person for this kind of game. It just wasn't for me, quite honestly. Like I said, the first month of playing it was a lot of fun, but it just reaches a point where it becomes so overly grindy and it doesn't feel like there's very much payoff. So yeah, rounding out the bottom of this list, I still would put it among my favorite games of 2020, just not anywhere near the best, for sure. Coming in at number 5 is a neat little indie game called Yes, Your Grace. This game has a choice-based narrative, and it also has resource management aspects to it. You play the role of a king, and your choices shape the world around you, and as you're making your choices, you have to manage your supplies and gold, because you have to save gold and supplies for certain things here, or maybe give them to villagers here. You also have agents that you have to pay gold to keep around, and then you use them to help assist you with villagers. At first, it seems like a very easy game, The first few moments of the game, the first few chapters of it, you're like, alright, this ain't too bad. But then the game goes on, and it goes on. You realize, oh shit, maybe this is a bit more difficult than I anticipated. The actual story to the game, however, is very, very good. When I played it, I really flubbed the resource management at the end. I really was not doing well with it. But the story itself kept me invested regardless. Even though I was like, yeah, I'm totally messing this all up, I was still into it. I still wanted to see it through to the end no matter what, because it had a really good story to it. I really was invested in this story, and there's multiple endings, there's different choices you can make to get. It follows essentially the same story. The story is very linear, yes, but the different moments and events and how people react to you based on your choices is done very well. I like that. I like the way the choices do shape the world, while the story itself still remains fairly linear. It was just overall, a very enjoyable game, and I'll happily put it at the number 5 spot. And coming in at number 4 is yet another indie title called Red Bow. Red Bow is made by Stronga Games, or Strange Games. I haven't actually heard it pronounced, so I don't know what the proper pronunciation is. I say Stronga. If it's wrong, please correct me. But Stronga is also the developer behind games like Just Ignore Us and My Big Sister, which I've also played here on the channel. My Big Sister was a phenomenal game in my opinion, so after playing that, I knew that Stronga could really make good stories. But also I played Just Ignore Us, which the story was a bit lackluster in that one. Granted, that was one of their earlier projects. My Big Sister is more recent. So I was a little iffy, especially when I saw the runtime of this game. This game is barely over an hour. Honestly, shorter than most films nowadays. And so I was a bit iffy. It had a short runtime. And, I knew that the developer behind this could write good stories, but I also know they could have fairly lackluster stories, so I didn't know where this game was going to go, but I'm very happy I gave it a shot, because the story itself was incredibly interesting. It's a story that deals with, coming to terms with death and the acceptance of, the deaths of loved ones and whatnot. It's a very interesting story, and I very much enjoyed it. I was invested all the way up until the end, and at the end, I didn't finish the game feeling unsatisfied. I wasn't wishing for any more, It had a short runtime, but I wasn't sitting there nah, I wish there was more to it. No, I was sitting there you know what? That was a good story. I enjoyed it. It was a nice little short story, and I quite enjoyed it. It was very much a lot of fun. Is that a phrase? Very much a lot of fun? That doesn't sound like a real phrase. what the fuck am I even talking about? Now, all that's left is the top 3 games, but before we get into the top 3 games, I wanted to give a shout out to the honorable mentions of 2020. The honorable mentions being games that weren't released in 2020, but I played for the first time in 2020, and I feel like they definitely deserve, a little time in the spotlight. These games are The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt, The Talos Principle, Ascendant Hearts, Code Vein, Tales from the Borderlands, Tokyo Dark, and Eliza. However, those are not the only games I want to shout out. There are 2 franchises, 2 series of games that I want to give, special shout outs to, because these 2 series have been huge parts of my year. I know for a fact that if I wouldn't have played these games this year, my year would have been much different. Like, having these games as a part of my year has been huge. The first series I want to give a big shout out to is the Yakuza series. I started playing the first game in the Yakuza series on December 26th, 2019. Right at the end of last year, I started this series. I had no idea what journey awaited me. And just yesterday, on December 31st of 2020, I finished Yakuza 6, the final chapter in the Kiryu saga. And boy, oh boy, after finally completing this journey, I can say that from start to finish, from Yakuza 1 to 6, this journey has just been fucking incredible. It's the overall story from 1 to 6 is phenomenal. Some of the games have, fairly lackluster stories here and there. They fall flat in a few places, but the overall story has just been, it's been an absolute roller coaster to go on. And I can't say enough good about this series as a whole. Yes, there's some low points for me personally. 3 and 5 weren't really, top tier games, but honestly, they were still enjoyable. Like, there wasn't a single game in the series that I felt like was a bad game. There's people out there who advocate, skipping certain games within the Yakuza series, and I don't think you should do that at all. If you're someone considering playing through the Yakuza series, I honestly believe that each game is worth at least one playthrough, if for no other reason than to, form your own opinion of these games. But like I said, I think they're all, enjoyable. Even like the worst game in the series isn't bad. It's still a lot of fun, regardless. But yeah, this series has been just fucking crazy. It's just been such a wild ride. It's so weird to know that, it's almost over. Like, I have one more game to play, which is Yakuza Like a Dragon, which unfortunately I didn't get a chance to play this year, so it didn't make the list. Though I'm pretty sure that once I do start playing it, I will retroactively make it my number 1. But unfortunately, as for right now, it's not on the list. Though, like I said, that will definitely change in the future. And the second series I want to give a huge shout out to is the Muv-Luv series, specifically the Muv-Luv trilogy, as I haven't had a chance to play either of the Fandis collections yet. The Muv-Luv trilogy, and I've said this at the end of my Muv-Luv playthrough, but the Muv-Luv trilogy is honestly, to me, one of the greatest fucking stories ever written across any medium. Whether it be books, movies, television, video games, there hasn't been a story that I've been nearly as invested into as this one. This one pulled me in, and it kept me in the entire time. From the jump, from the very beginning of the first game, I was hooked into it. And not for a single moment did this story ever lose me. There was not a single point where I was just like, I don't know if this series is really worth keeping going, or maybe it's not as good as I once thought. It's like, no, I was pulled in, and I still haven't let go because I still have more games in this series to play. But it's just been such a wild fucking ride. It truly is. It is such a phenomenal story, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Whether you're a fan of visual novels or not, if you're even remotely interested, if you look at this game, you're like, well, I don't really like visual novels, but this looks, somewhat interesting, fucking give it a chance. Because it is fucking crazily good. Crazily? That's not a fucking word. Whatever. It is a fucking phenomenal game. I have spent the last 7 months of my life fucking playing these games. I started Extra, the first game, in May, and I finished Alternative at the beginning of December. For 7 months, I've been playing through the series, and I still have 2 more games to play through. I still have the 2 fan disc collections to play through, and I'm honestly super excited to continue playing those. Like, holy shit, this series, I can't say enough good about it. And there's obviously, if you take a look at this channel, you can see that the Muv-Luv series has made a huge positive impact to this channel. I'm incredibly grateful for that. I'm incredibly grateful for all the Muv-Luv fans who have shown up and have stuck around for it. Like, Muv-Luv has been a huge part of my year, and like I said earlier, I couldn't imagine this year without it. But anyway, now that the honorable mentions are done and wrapped up, we still have 3 more games to talk about. The top 3. The big kahunas of 2020. Coming in at number 3, the bronze medalist themselves, is Persona 5 Royal. Now, before I get anyone jumping down my throat about how low I've put this on the list, I'm only judging this game based on the new content that was added, not on the base game of Persona 5 itself. The base game of Persona 5 was my favorite game of 2017. It's absolutely phenomenal. I love the main story of Persona 5. But for Persona 5 Royal, for this list, I'm only judging the Royal storyline and the additional characters that were added to, the Persona 5 universe, the roster, whatever you want to refer to it as. That being said, the Royal storyline itself was enjoyable. The extra storyline they added on that takes place after the main story was good. It wasn't anything amazing. It wasn't like something that really fucking hit me. I was like, wow, damn, that was really fucking good. But it was something I stepped away from it. I was like, you know what? It was good. Specifically, the characters involved, however, Dr. Maruki was a good character. A phenomenal character. I really enjoyed his involvement, not only in the main story, but especially his role he played in the Royal storyline. He definitely played a very good role as an antagonist. I personally am a big fan of the morally gray characters, not the cut black and white, this is bad guy, he bad, end of story. But this character, it's he's got good intentions, but he's going about them in all the wrong ways. I like characters like that, villains like that who aren't truly villainous, and I think Dr. Maruki was a perfect example of that. And with that, we come to the second new character in the Persona 5 universe, which also happens to be probably my biggest gripe with this game. And that, of course, is the new character, Kasumi. Kasumi was marketed very heavily. She was the face of the marketing for this game. Everywhere you looked, in all the trailers, all the ads, her face was there. She was dead center. She was the thing they always focused on, this character right here. This girl right here, keep an eye on her because she's going to be real important. Guess what? She wasn't that important. Alright, they make you believe that, this new character, this new Kasumi, she's gonna be something. She's gonna be something you really give a shit about. She's gonna be something you really care about. And she's usable as a party member for one palace. One palace. And that's if you unlock the Royal storyline. If you don't meet the requirements to unlock the Royal storyline, you can go through this entire game and never actually use Kasumi as a character. Oh, but she has screen time. Okay, she was in cutscenes. Who gives a shit? That was one of the stupidest arguments. Well, not really arguments. No one really legitimately cared. But with the base game Persona 5, you heard a lot of people talk about Haru, who was the last party member you recruit in the main story, not getting enough screen time. She wasn't in enough cutscenes. However, she actually had plenty of playtime as an actual party member. She was there for obviously Okumura's palace, Sai's palace, Shido's palace, and then the Memento's palace. 4 whole palaces you could actually use her as a party member for. Whereas Kasumi, it's maybe 1. Maybe 1. Potentially 0, but maybe 1. I feel like they definitely dropped the ball with this new character, especially with how heavily she was marketed. I feel like they really fucking pissed away the potential that this character had. I feel like they could have done so much more with her, and they didn't, and it's very disappointing. And I think the main reason it is so disappointing is just how hyped up this character was. How much they focused on her during all the marketing for this game, and then she's just hardly there at all. Like, yeah, no, she pops up like every now and then in the cutscenes. Ooh, look, there she is. She said some lines and now she's gone. Ooh, that's, definitely important. The Kasumi just irritates me. Not because the actual character herself. I did legitimately like the character herself, but just, she was hardly there. She was hardly there. Just blink and she's gone. It felt like a very worthless addition. Like, obviously she plays a big role in the royal storyline, but like, honestly, just, I wasn't really that into it because I really didn't fucking care that much about Kasumi, because she wasn't part of the team, goddammit. And my other big complaint, not really a big complaint, but my other complaint with the new additional royal content to Persona 5 is the ending to the royal storyline. The ending to the original Persona 5 was, I loved it. The closing movie where you and all your homies hop in the van and you fucking go driving down the highway, and as the car disappears over the horizon, the credits come up and they start rolling. It's beautiful. I loved it. It was fantastic. Alright? But the way they end it in the royal storyline, they completely chop up and butcher the ending just so they can work in Maruki and Kasumi into the actual ending, and it sucks. It just fucking sucks. It's not good. I don't like it. I felt like they really fucked over the ending on that one. And I know, like, here at the end I've focused on a lot of the negatives with the royal content, but honestly overall the new royal additional stuff wasn't bad, because with the royal edition you also got some quality of life changes to the game that were very beneficial. A lot of the boss fights got switched up. There were new phases, new attacks and whatnot, so it wasn't the same old stuff as you knew before. There was actually a reason to replay it. It's like, oh, how am I going to take it on now, so on and so forth. Persona 5 Royal definitely did a lot of things right, but I just feel like there was those 2 main areas they really dropped the ball on. But overall, I still think it was a great game, obviously, mainly because I fucking love the original Persona 5, but the royal content wasn't bad. There were just 2 very big flaws, in my opinion. Now we come to number 2, the silver medalist. Second place. This is probably a game you haven't heard of, but I thought it was just absolutely phenomenal, and that is Evans Remains. Evans Remains is a neat little indie puzzle game that, I just happened to see, while I was fucking perusing the PlayStation Store one day. It's a phenomenal game. It accomplishes what Redbow managed to accomplish as well, in that it was given a short runtime, but in that short runtime, it manages to accomplish a lot. Now, its runtime isn't nearly as short as Redbow. Redbow was only about an hour, whereas I believe Evans Remains was closer to like 3 to 4 hours, I believe is what it was. But even just in that short time span, like, you managed to get a lot out of that game. The puzzles in the game are very enjoyable. They're a lot of fun. Like, even the most challenging puzzles, like, I never got frustrated with. Even the puzzles I got stuck on and had to keep redoing time and time and time again, I never got mad at it. Like, there wasn't a point where I was like, fuck this shit, I need to look up a guide so I can just move on from this and just go on to something else. No, there was never that moment. Like, I felt content in continually trying these puzzles over and over and over again. There wasn't ever a moment where I was upset with this game. It was just such a good time. And the actual story attached to the game was incredibly good. Like, the plot twist right at the end, not gonna spoil it, but damn. Like, I didn't see that. I honestly did not see that coming at all. Like, the story it starts to go places, and you can kind of see where it's going, but then there's this twist, and it starts going in other directions, and you kind of think you know what's going to happen, but then there's this twist that I just didn't see coming at all, and just suddenly it's something so much more, and it's just a phenomenal story. I greatly enjoyed it, and honestly, even at full price, this game is only like $8. I highly recommend you give it a shot if you're even remotely interested in it. It is such a fucking good time. I loved it. Alright. And here we are. Number 1. The gold medalist. The blue ribbon. The fucking best of the best. Not necessarily because, like I said, there were plenty of other games I didn't play this year, but you get what I'm saying. Of the ones I did play this year, the best of the best. Now, I know this choice is going to ruffle some feathers, because there were plenty of people who were upset with this game. But for me personally, I thought it was a very good game. That game being The Last of Us Part 2. Yes, The Last of Us Part 2. Chances are you've heard a lot of negative things about this game. Well, I'm here to say that a lot of that shit is just a lot of people upset for other reasons. This game got the absolute hell review bombed out of it, and honestly, the game itself didn't deserve it. Alright? A lot of people are upset at Naughty Dog's business practices, them relying on crunch time to get things done, which are valid criticisms of the company. By all means, criticize the company for doing these things. It's bad shit, absolutely. And then a lot of people are also pissy about Neil Druckmann being kind of an egotistical dick in the wake of everything, which, once again, is a valid criticism. I'm not saying don't criticize these people when they're in the wrong, but neither of those things, accurately reflect the quality of the game itself, Like, the game itself was actually really good. The graphics obviously looked great. The gameplay is the same Last of Us gameplay you've come to know and love. It's the same, it's essentially the same gameplay you had in the original games, just been slightly tweaked a bit, but I had a hell of a lot of fun playing this game, especially the stealth combat. Oh my god, I love the stealth combat in this game. And I mean, even the non-stealth combat was still a lot of fun. I greatly enjoyed this game. And then where a lot of people are divided on, well, not necessarily a lot of people, where a lot of the review bombs attacked this game was the story. The story was good. A lot of people were upset because a very important character from the first game died early on. The story itself, though, was a really good one in my opinion. Was it perfect? No, there were definitely some spots where it was a bit rough in, where they could have done a little bit better, but I think overall it was a really fucking good story. It was a great story that, tried to teach this message of, how being obsessed with revenge is a very negative thing, and it'll only harm you more than it'll do you any good. Getting what you think you want isn't going to actually do you any good, and I think this game does a great job of sending that message. My one little gripe with this game, my one slight gripe with this game that it still bugs me, is right at the end, alright? Obviously, I already warned y'all about spoilers, but I'll say it again, since I am talking about specifically the end of the game. Right at the end, there's the big final fight between Ellie and Abby. They're duking it out on the beach while Lev is passed out in a boat. They're duking it out because Ellie she can't let Abby go. She can't do it. And they're going at it. Eventually, Ellie gets the advantage. She manages to knock down Abby. She's holding Abby's head underwater, drowning this bitch, about to fucking kill her. And then all of a sudden, an image of Joel flashes into her brain, and she lets up. She lets her go. Let's go. Abby jumps up. Ellie says, yeah, you know what, get out of here. And Abby zips away. It just didn't make much sense to me, and a lot of people have theorized as to why she let her go, but none of the theories really I'm content with. Like, none of them really truly make sense to me. I feel like it would have made much more sense that if Ellie would have fucking actually, been in that situation, she would have finished the job, because at that point, Ellie truly had nothing left to lose. She had pushed away all her friends and family. She had nothing left. The one thing she had left, and she just let it go, it just didn't make sense to me. I feel like the ending that would have made more sense, in my opinion, is if Abby would have gotten the advantage over Ellie, subdued Ellie, had her in a position to where she could have killed Ellie, but instead decides not to because she knows that's not the road she wants to go down anymore, gets in her boat with Lev, and gets out of there, and you still would have gotten the same ending. The same ending where Abby, the person who was able to let go of their revenge, essentially gets the better outcome because she gets to go off on her own and, continue traveling with her friend. Whereas Ellie, who had, pushed any and everyone away for the sake of her revenge, didn't get what she wanted and now is left with absolutely nothing because of it. You still would have gotten the same ending, you still would have sent the same message, but it would have made much more sense in my opinion if it had gone that way. But regardless, at the end of the day, I still think it was a fucking great game. I still think the story was very well done, and I don't understand so much of the hate it receives, in my opinion. I understand why a lot of people hate on it. I hate. Let me just restate once more. This game was great. I loved it. And while I do think that once I actually play Yakuza Like a Dragon, that will be my new number 1, this game definitely deserves at least to be at the number 2 spot. It was a fucking great game. It was fucking great. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story it told. It was fun to play. I loved it. So there you have it. My favorite games of 2020. I'm sure plenty of people disagree with this list. Probably because of the games I mentioned earlier that I didn't get a chance to play. They'd say, well, if you would have played this, I'm sure it would have gotten this spot, and this game shouldn't be at this spot because if you would have played this. I'm sure we could all agree to disagree on several of these placements, but at the end of the day, this is the list. These are the games I played this year, and well, at least the ones I liked anyway. There are plenty of games I played this year that were not so good. But that aside, thank you to anyone who watched this video, and a big thank you to anyone who's watched any videos this year. This channel has grown significantly in this last year. We may not be making, big numbers, but like, the growth is fucking insane that I've experienced just in this last year alone. I'm incredibly grateful for all of it. I truly am. So just big thank you to everyone who's tuned into a video, whether, you've been here since the beginning of the year, or even earlier, or maybe you just subscribed a couple days ago. Regardless, it all means a lot, the fact that anyone's willing to watch these videos. I have a lot of fun making them, and I'm glad that other people can enjoy them. But all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video of whatever it is I make next. Until then, peace.